A very warm welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. You are watching The Big Idea here on Look Up TV. I am Nancy Nalima. Welcome to the program. Today in the show, we look at the COVID-19 restrictions and the subsequent unrest on social media. Now there is an apparent social media revolution that is coming up. What is it exactly about and how far can it go? To help me discuss this issue further, on set right next to me is Frank Ombogo, aka Frank Zaga, who is a digital guru. And on the far end, we have Robbie Karani, who is an advocate and political analyst. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
So, the COVID-19 restrictions, let's just dive straight into our discussion. The restrictions are now the curfew enforcement that has taken place over the last 3 days. So Saturday was the first time people were actually on the road until 4 a.m. You know, most people thought it was a joke at first, that they'll be released after some time, but that was not to be. So they were there all through to 4 a.m. And Kenyans are an angry lot. I don't know, you're in the digital space.
Yeah.
You have seen all this uproar.
Yeah, actually, it's becoming something crucial, and I bet the youths are no longer just keeping mum about it. We no longer just have mint in our mouths. We are deciding to talk about it, being that you come to realize that the virtual space or the digital online space, it's finally like flattening the curve. It's giving us a voice, being that it's no longer just about Kenya, but it's about Africa. It's about the global space, the whole world. So we are able to finally talk about issues, and finally, to some point, we are beginning to realize the power that we have in our hands as the youths. Because this can be even seen with one like Octopizzo, who at the same time has been given a seat in the European Union. So just to show you that youths, it's about time we use what we have to do what we can in order to make this country a better place.
Okay, and Robbie, so the digital space, of course, it's a very powerful platform, but can we effect change just by raising our voices on that platform?
Okay, I beg to take a different angle and ask exactly what we are raising our voice to. Now, we had a curfew. Our curfew runs from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. The people that were locked, I think it's Thika Road, were locked at 8:30 p.m. past curfew on the road for no apparent reason per se, and that's when we get our voice. Like all this time that the police had not been enforcing these curfew restrictions, what were we saying? When we have rules that we're supposed to follow, and then we don't follow them, and then we raise our voice when the rules are enforced, as if we don't know that the curfew was up from 8 to 4 a.m. I find it a bit ironical that we have a great, I would say, potential of information to raise concerns over things, but we only raise them to the wrong things. That's my thinking around it, because if we had channeled that energy to finding maybe solutions on how we reopen our hotel industry, how we come up with solutions to maybe flatten our curve and our contact with each other, innovative ways of doing business rather than with physical contact, then we'll be going somewhere. But we are here raising a revolution about the police enforcing a curfew that was in place a month ago.
I beg to differ. I beg to differ, being that first thing first, you realize that even the curfew, is it a necessity? Was it really necessary, all the regulations that they had to put in place? Because trust you me, they are still, Najib Balala was still tweeting about it, that there's an error, a charter which was coming in fully with more than 183 tourists. But these tourists are coming on board. Where are they going to settle? Which hotels are they going to be booked onto? Being that hotels are closing down. So you realize that the whole, it's about time we just have to raw about it and just talk about it, because from the curfew itself, I don't feel like all the measures put in place were quite reasonable. In addition to that, you find that in the long run, we as the youths become like the grass who are just trampled on, whereby we are not in the legislative body, we are not forming part and parcel of we are not even being notified about even the rules and regulations. We are just there.
Okay,
so I feel like
I think one of the things that I had even alluded to in the beginning is the information that we rely on and what we claim to stand by. I don't have an issue with people airing their concerns. I call for that, I action for that every day. I try to get as many people to give their views as much as possible. But you have to understand this, that our curfew lockdown of 8 p.m. and our zone is limited to 4 counties. The chartered plane was to arrive in Mombasa. Mombasa is not under the restrictions that we are in.
But then would argue that COVID-19 is still prevalent in Kenya.
Yeah, and I do agree.
And the chartered plane is coming from Ukraine, a country that has
Ukraine.
over a
The Ukraine charter,
which is
had around 21 people who are operatives and not tourists. They were looking to come to Kenya and identify destinations for tours and travel. We are looking to open a market. It's not that they are coming to bring the market right now. They are coming to research and find out the places that will be destinations for Kenya. So why would we lock people who are trying to identify areas to visit just because we have 4 zoned areas?
But there are people who are coming from a country that has over 1 million cases of the COVID-19.
Okay, now we are actually in a battle with the UK on the same issue about uniform protocols on how we do our COVID testing and how they do their COVID testing. And most of the variants received from Kenya are variants of the COVID-19 corona in South Africa. It's not actually a Kenyan variant, it's a South African variant. So when we are dealing with European issues, we tend to take that we have done both our testing and their testing. And the issue that we are having is most people are claiming that we want to have a uniform testing for both sides. In Africa, it's only Ghana who have mass testing on airports. We still don't have that.
Yeah.
The European have that. Anybody coming to the country at the moment using chartered planes, they have their certification for vaccines. And we are not even looking for tourists per se. We are looking to identify the markets that we go on. If Najib Balala was to tweet, she has been going around with a program called Signature Experiences in Kenya, and trying to identify routes and destinations that are classic or unique to Kenyan and exhibiting Kenya in different views. So when you have people who are looking to open up the market, why would you go around fighting about Mombasa and COVID and Nairobi without COVID, and in a span where we are expecting a report from these guys? We are expecting some kind of deal from these guys and telling us, okay, we can provide this, we can provide this. We had the Romanian one come in, and from it we have surged from our tourist numbers across the region, because now most European countries feel like they can be safe with Kenya, because from all the timelines we've given, we are giving them an easier route to be in Africa, rather than trying to chase them away as if they are the carriers of the disease. We have the disease in Kenya.
Yeah, but they're coming from a place
which is prone more.
Yeah, which has more
But
cases.
every individual who's
Kenyans
coming
have an
has a
issue.
certification and has a test and has been given a jab. We are also trying to do the same here.
So then Kenyans can't move freely to Kenyans can't move freely to Mombasa.
Well, not all.
Yeah, like we can't really move very freely across the counties.
What's funny?
And yet, some people are coming in from Ukraine, Romania, and jetting into the country because of tourism. And yet, even tourism in very many sectors, many areas in the country, has been put on a standstill.
Well,
what's
So
funny?
that is the concern.
I'm trying to explain to you that the standstill you talk of in the zoned area and outside the zoned areas are two different things. We have national game reserves in Samburu. We have reserves in Narok. We have a lake in Turkana. We have a mountain in Marsabit. We have places people can go outside our zoned areas. And if we don't use the opportunity to identify these markets right now, when all this is over, hopefully, and we pray to God it does, when all this is over, do we intend on just sitting and now saying, okay, let's start to think, okay, where do we...
So it's a plan, a prayer plan to resuscitate.
Yes.
The
The idea,
tourism
the idea being that at the moment that we are not having all this movement and all that, it would be the perfect opportunity for any investor and anyone business-minded, even in the tourist industry, to identify areas that would have otherwise not been identified with all the movements.
Okay, yes, Zaga.
What I would love to extrapolate is that it's quite funny that we do allow charters to come on board to Kenya, while at the same time, nobody can fly from Nairobi to Mombasa, be it an urgent, be it a crucial point of view, as you have said, talking about investments. For instance, the same on Wednesday, when, was it Friday? Yeah, when we had all that, jam and curfew and police and the blockage and everything, you come to realize that there are people who had the pass, but they were not let through. We had even ambulance. We had even a mother who was pregnant, who couldn't even be able to deliver. We had people who we had some things which were crucial, which were en route, but they couldn't pass. So was it all that necessary? Well, was all that really necessary? If at the same time, we do allow investors, as we call them, right? The billionaires, as we call them, to inject more money. We are ready, while we are killing our own local economy. You realize that right now, I personally being also an MC, you realize that all the restaurants, all the clubs are shutting down. So we are losing more business than we are bringing in more business. So it comes to raise the question, does it make sense? So I bet that's what is worrying most of the youths, being that the youths out here are super depressed. The only jobs that we can get are just transcribing, probably writing, probably some digital marketing, which is not enough, and which we are not even quite well equipped, being that our education system also focuses on other things. Come to think about it, even when you look at these developed, or when we look at these modern companies, these entities companies, you realize that in order for you to be given even a digital marketing job, you will not only need your digital, you will not only need your skills and that degree that you have attained in the education, but you'll also have to take some Google lessons, some Google digital work, all that, you see, workshops. So it's quite funny. That's why, so we are being deprived of the resources, we are being deprived of of how we can live, of our livelihood. People are getting depressed and all that. And yet we are talking about that we want to grow the economy, we're injecting more billionaires, we're injecting more cash to the economy. We're injecting cash, but it's not even circulating. So the youth is kind of stranded, and that's why we are feeling like enough is enough. And
hence
we only
revolution.
need just that flicker and probably it might lead to a fire.
So my advice to you, one great advice, that never downplay an opportunity to learn anything.
So
I do not take
I
do not take the idea of people being taken for workshops and training to be a burden to them. I like reading, so any opportunity I get to grow my skills, I attend it, I use it fully, and I encourage people to always do that. It's always good to have, to add to your skills, and I believe we have a great potential, but we still have to think of a country in a bigger sense. What I was talking about, I wasn't talking about injecting money right now. I was talking about canvassing a market such that when we open up, we have
Then we don't
avenues
go
to
back to zero.
We don't go back to starting from zero. So we have already set up our structure so that when we can have all this done, then going into a recovery would be easier for Kenya. And number two, I do sympathize with the industries that have closed during this period, but you also have to understand that most people do not take this as a down moment, but as an opportunity to find more innovative ways. I have come across youths who have come up to create courier services for food. So when restaurants are doing takeaway only, now they have found a new opportunity of taking food to people's houses and stuff like that. It's always a balance of issues, but if you look at it from a point of view of the opportunities in it, you might find them. But if you go into the space with a perspective that now everything is shut down, now they're telling us to read, our education system is this, we are actually in the middle of changing our education system in a whole. So, and you don't expect that to change in a day. We went through 844, too bad for us. Our kids are going through CBC and stuff like that, but it's a generational change. And what we have to do is look at to amass all our skills and look at points where we can all attack in different positions and get something from it as a whole. I do not subscribe to the level of everything that goes wrong with me, I have to find
someone to blame
some system to. I always look at it as what am I doing and what can I do better. I like what the president said when he was closing down, and he said we can always revive an economy, but we can't bring back life. I have lost a number of people with COVID-19 as it is, and I would feel so bad knowing that I lost my relatives because someone somewhere had to go work, had to go do a service that they could do at home.
Okay, so then can we say that Kenyans are more angry at the implementation, even more than just the restriction in itself, such that when the police lit the fire?
Now, for the record, there were around 3 ambulances and 4 who passed in at Thika Road. The problem was every time an ambulance was created a way to pass, 3 cars joined in to force to go.
But there was a lot of chaos.
But that was chaotic. But
implementation.
The point
seems
being,
to be
the point
a
being,
constant issue here.
No, the point being, what it exposed is that the police had not been enforcing these rules, so people relaxed. So when they enforce it one day is when we are all up in arms and noticing some have passes, others are drunk, others are what. But the point being, the police themselves were not really keen on enforcing this.
But when they choose to enforce, then was that the best way to go about it?
Well, I would say it is unfortunate, but I took the idea because most of the time we have painted the police to be these blood-seeking people who they don't really enforce anything. As long as you have your 200 with you, you'll pass. And they were trying to create a message about this is about the rules and about the country and not about giving us money. We don't put on restrictions to get money from you. We're just trying to protect you. And in as much as some people got mixed up in the crossfire, the point got home. The point being that we have a curfew from 8 to 4. If you know you are not supposed to be out past those hours, please be in your houses.
I bet for once I can concur. I can concur with him. It's more in the implementation. When we talk about the implementation, we're talking about this is Nairobi. It's a metropolitan. Businesses have to get in and out each and every time. If they were to give some people like more of like a leeway, more of a time to figure it out. So for many businesses, they can be able to cushion themselves. They can be able to restructure. They can be able to figure it out, to have this pass, right? And just in order to be at the safe at the safe hand of the law, right? I bet that could be much more better, rather than whereby within a day you just shut everything down. It's like we are living in a dome, right? Whereby you cannot go anywhere. You are restricted all of a sudden. So everything comes to a standstill. And then at the same time, these billions coming in, right? In terms of, in order to cushion the youths, to give youths some few jobs, kazi kwa vijana and all that, right? But now the problem is the normal mwananchi, the youth, is not getting anything at all. Is merely at the basic hands of God himself. So you find that it's quite depressing to many youths. And I've been able to talk with a lot of youths, and that's why they end up being in all these bays and all these sports, and we end up stereotyping them, and at the same time they end up doing what we are stereotyping them to do, right? Because we have no opportunities. The opportunities are not there. The structures are not favoring the youths at all. For instance, I know of a student who who in the past 7 months, if not 8 months, it's just been an online class to a physical class to a digital class again to an online class. Right now, it reached a point, being that I was in one of the classes, it reached a point, and this is a well-renowned established university. It reached a point, the lecturer is like, what he could utter is, I don't know, I just don't know what you people should do. Probably I should send you some links so that you can do some reading and figure it out. It reached a point a lecturer has to say that, because it's kind of pathetic. Even themselves, there's some information, rumor has it round, there's some information going around.
Very
that
quickly, because we have to take a break.
Yeah, that by 10th of May, schools are to resume and all that, right? But at the same time, are there some structures being set, or is it the same way whereby at the end of it will be scavenging for what we can get, what we can do?
I
So
laugh.
it's
I
quite-
laugh
Okay.
because of two things.
Okay, I think we will be taking a break, and
Yeah.
I want us to talk about just the uproar on social media, and it's, of course, not just because of the curfew,
Yeah.
the enforcement of the curfew restriction, but also from, it's a build-up of different things,
Yeah.
from to the IMF loans, and just Kenyans feeling like it's time to open up the economy, and so much more. But at this point, we'll be taking a break right here on The Big Idea, but we'll be back to talk more about the COVID-19 restrictions that have caused a lot of unrest online. Don't go too far. Welcome back. You are watching The Big Idea right here on Look Up TV, and today on the show, we are looking at the COVID-19 restriction and the subsequent unrest on social media platforms. And we want you to be part of the conversation using the SMS number 20374. With me on set is Frank Zaga, who is a digital guru, and Robbie Karani, who is an advocate and political analyst. So just before the break, I had begun talking about the social media revolution. I don't know, anytime I'm talking about the revolution, I just want to put quotes and quotes,
Yeah.
because I'm not exactly sure what it is about. You are the digital guru.
Yeah.
So Kenyans have for some time, it started with the IMF loan, and Kenyans wanted IMF to actually not give the Kenyan government,
Yeah.
not to loan the Kenyan government the 255 billion. And we discover that we don't have the power. Yes, we can raise concern, but just by telling IMF not to give the Kenyan government the loan, it's not really effective. But this has been the constant view of many Kenyans, that they are unhappy with what the government is doing. So, and you are in that space, so just tell us more about how the uproar is going on.
When we talk about digital marketing, and when we talk about the virtual space and the social media whole revolution point of view, it's whereby we have come to realize that following the factor of democracy, whereby the voice of the many should be listened to, and the minority to be also realized or to be appreciated. We are trying as much as possible to go all out there, just to show our distaste on how we are being ruled, or to show our distaste to the legislation on how, to the implementation of the laws, to how some of the regulations that are being put in place, how to some point they are affecting us, and they're affecting us as the youths. So we are trying to just go all out there, with the hope that bodies like United Nations, UNESCO, they could feel that to some point we are lacking some basic needs. So at least they could help us rally some support. And I think with this, it's also come to our realization that us as the youths, instead of only just being bitter with not having the opportunities and all that, we have realized that to some point we also have power. Like one depiction of a social media revolution is you realize that when Purity, the journalist who did give a story pertaining to the police saga and all that, you realize that when one Betty, or as she was being called at that time, Beatrice, you realize that when she did post something which was quite of a different idea from agenda which we were talking about, which was about the police accepting and taking bribe and all these things that we see on the ground. Realize that when she did post that picture, and we did have to talk about it, she had to literally like pull down the photo. So that just goes to show you the power that we have always had, but we never really knew that we had. And to some point, being that we are in the 21st century, whereby we have the latest technology, we have come to realize that we are the ones who are access to the technology better than others. We are the ones who are able to manipulate the technology better.
So then this is a platform where you feel like you can be heard?
Yeah, so it becomes a platform where we can be heard, we can be able to share our distaste, and hopefully we can get some good leaders into the office, or we can get some good regulations and structures being put in place, just in order to shape the youth.
And Robbie, from a legal perspective, maybe how effective is the voice of people from social media? Can it actually cause a revolution?
I don't like that you say that we don't have power, because that's the provision of Article 1 of the Constitution, that all sovereign power belongs to the people. But I want to take a different angle, and I want to be a teacher today. So our processes in terms of monetary and funds, a financial statement in Kenya, we have a process called the budget making process. And the budget making process begins from the people. It begins with the Treasury coming to the people and asking, what plans do we prioritize? What plans do you think we should put down? And then they go back and do estimates. The same is brought to Parliament. As a person, you have the right to petition Parliament on anything. So at the same time, Parliament has a committee that goes around doing public participation for the budget. And then once that is passed, it goes to the President for assent. And it's from the budget that we get the flow of funds that we are using. So anytime that we have that flow going on, it means that any money that we are supposed to get or loan, in terms of loan, was actually negotiated over an year ago. It means it's not being done now. And the process, because of what we imported with the Constitution under Article 10, is that it always have a public participation aspect to it. But you find that in most of our circles, we do not like to associate with that. I told you here that I hold public participation on Zoom.
Very, okay.
I hold
So when
for my area. And when I do that, I will tell you, 90% of the attendees are not youth.
So for what you're saying is before even like the IMF loan, now that we're going to be granted, so the discussion was already
Yes,
last year.
I was actually a bit embarrassed, so to say, because what came out of it was an angry people who do not know how they're supposed to channel their anger, where they're supposed to take their anger, and what is actually causing their anger. That was what was getting to me. Like whatever we are talking about right now didn't just happen overnight. Whatever is being discussed now, whatever the funds, the projects that have been allocated for the funds, they went through public participation over 2 years ago. So when we are stuck here talking about some money to a project that was negotiated 2 years ago, we don't look like the smart people in the room. I don't know if you're getting
So
me.
we need to be more informed
So
about
I am not
processes.
opposed to the social media bubble and all that. What I'm opposed to is the lack of information and some clear divergent and manipulation in the things that they talk about. Because when we sit and start talking about debt, I would ask that we talk about debt to GDP ratio. When we talk about debt and talk about things that saying Kenya can't pay because we don't expect our economy to grow, does it look good on you, or actually does it look bad to your investors? Because what you're saying is, don't give us money because we will never grow. We just want to remain the same place we are. And number two, before I go there, before I get there, I like to call it a retrospective part, because our figures don't lie. Kenyans borrow 1.2 billion from Fuliza every single day. Every single day during this COVID period. I'm not talking about the apps, the branch, the Mshwari, from Fuliza. 1.2 billion shillings every single day.
But Kenyans have a concern of the loan, of how it's going to be used.
How it's going to be used.
So it's even more about, again, implementation.
And
how
that's
it's
why-
going to be used.
That's why I
In
have
what
started
sectors?
with explaining to you the process of budgeting and how, okay, if we had a road here, the road starts with a public participation. It has estimates, they do a validation, it goes to the finance bill, it's expedited, it goes to Ascent, then the project is done, and then every 3 months we have a quarterly report of the implementation of the budget.
But
Now, because
see-
I want us to
Yes.
get to
Okay,
there.
we're getting the
because
process.
because we all don't like these technical bits. We don't care how the road got there, because the 255 billion that we are actually talking about has more than 35 projects. But because we are not looked at that, we are talking about how will this money be affected. If you actually take a look at our supplementary budget, you will know exactly where that 255 billion is going. That's what
let
I'm
me
saying.
give some random factuality. You realize that more than 20 counties, as of yesterday, they are being looked onto by DCI because of embezzlements of funds and all that. To lead with Busia, with the man like himself, Ojomong, whereby we do realize that there was more than 150 million which was used without a plan. And yet here we are being told about the structures, right? But I believe it's a county, right? And it's a place whereby to some point it has all those structures put in place. But
so
where are they?
when you are on the social media space, so your concern exactly is
Yeah.
how money is being spent.
How money is being spent without plans, and yet you are told about structures and about that we have these plans in place.
2015, Kiambu County passed a budget, but it didn't call for public participation. They spent 2 months without spending the money because the court considered the bill null and void, and it was all from an action of young guys. They are friends of mine who were teaching people about the budget process, and they went to court, and the whole budget was cancelled. And what I'm trying to explain at this point is that if you actually looked at the system, you would be talking of an actual thing, because the actions that they're talking about, why the IMF loan still came with all the hula baloo, is because they could not tie down anything to a factual thing. We wouldn't say that the problem is because the project A in this bill was not passed by the people, or project B was exaggerated in terms of its expenditure. Nobody is talking about the projects in it. We are giving it all a balloon. And in all that, me being a lawyer, I would fail to stand with it, because there's nothing I can say about it. All I can say is we have 25 projects here, A, B, and C, and D. This one was done in County A, County B, and if the people within that area were actually enlightened and empowered enough to understand these systems and to understand the structure and where to get in and where to pull out, then most of these things would be, you know, in every county, before they do the budget, they have a process called the annual development plan. And the idea being that we prioritize according to our ward. So you might go to a ward where their priority is street lights, their priority is water, their priority is access roads. But because we do not want to go on to that, some people will attend, and for them, their priority is a public toilet.
But are
and
people even aware when these processes are ongoing?
That's why that's why I started by telling you I do mine on Zoom, because all these things are always advertised. Every day you open a gazette up and you will always find something written: submission of memoranda, invitation for public participation. How many people got for that? So what I did for myself, I used to, when I see that anything that affects my residents, I just create a Zoom, and then I invite everyone. So I used to, to get the masses to come, I always invite my MCA and ward admin, because I'm like, I am not political and all that. All of you can come, even the chief, sometimes they attend. And I try to tell them now, let's talk on it, as so that when we have a project, they do quarterly reports and they say they have made 25 roads in our area. We're like, no, we only have 2. You can't write 25 on a paper and make it, because we have been attending these things. We know exactly what we are looking at. But when we do a bubble and talk about projects and ghost projects, and
so you feel like that's just an umbrella.
Yeah,
it's not very
my concern was if we actually used social media to do more civic education and to engage the people on actually what is supposed to happen. How does that money get here? It's not like you are going to Mshwari to say, okay, nataka 250 billion, give us to Kenya. If the ordinary Kenyan would understand how that money comes from IMF to the government to a road in his area, then we would actually be countering effective things. We would have an actionable claim to say, okay, some money that is coming in, we don't want this. Okay. Why? Because of A, B, C, and D.
Yes, Zaga.
Yeah. One thing I'm quite happy about is that my dear friend over here, he has a noble heart, and his tensions are genuine, right? But unfortunately, what we have on the ground in this life as a road, what we are getting as leaders, we are getting to drive through ruts. And when I'm talking about driving through ruts, you realize that this can be depicted with more than 20 counties having more of embezzlement, and that's why there's more scrutiny with the DCI. You're getting that 180 million being used without a plan, and an extra budget being even summoned in order to figure out how they can get more than 100 million. So,
Frank, so for you, it's more about just the process. Yeah. As Robbie says, there is a process, so you understand that there is a process. Yeah. But now when money goes missing and it's embezzled, then that becomes the issue.
Yeah. And I wouldn't love the youths to also be seen more of just some digital Jabanances kind of people who just talk, and it's not like we are also trying as much as possible now to engage ourselves more in the civic duties, so that we could be part of the process. But now the problem is you are looking for, you are trying to watch from the outside, you see, because even when talking about the dispersal of the 180 million which was embezzled, we realized that one company, you realize that one director was awarded like 2 tenders, which it's not allowed, I believe, which it's not doable, but it's happening, and it was approved.
Okay, and let's just move the conversation forward. So when people in the digital space are calling for, they say, bring the revolution.
Yeah.
What exactly is that about? Young people on the social media platform ready to go out to the streets, or is the intention just going to be on the digital space and making their voice heard, making that hashtag trend until what, the president bows down to the pressure and opens up the economy?
Well, I think it starts with the flicker. It starts with getting the word out there. It starts with you not being silent anymore and decide to use a platform that you can to be able to speak about the tranquilities that you can see and all those problems that you can see. And from there, just as we know that revolution is usually the tree of revolution is watered down by blood to some point, and we wouldn't love our dearest country to reach at that point. But it's just a point whereby the youths are showing that they are not happy with these implementations. We are not happy with where you people are taking us, and we are deciding to seize the moment by going all out, like our dearest friend Robin. So we are trying as much as possible to go all out there, and not just taking a back seat as we used to take a seat.
So make your voice count.
Yeah, and to make our voice count.
Okay.
So,
and one day, hopefully, to also make our vote count. Yeah.
Okay, I feel a bit disappointed in myself, because I can see the social media bubble growing, but I am opposed to growing on false narrative and ignorance per se, sorry to say, because I don't subscribe to the school of thought that you just oppose everything because you don't like the specific person. Good ideas can come from bad people, and bad ideas can also come from good people. So it doesn't mean that because you don't like a specific person, there's nothing they would do that would be a good thing or would not be beneficial to you. And what I mean by that is, most of the time we find ourselves, when we are trending, we brand the name to things that we can't really equate. So we call COVID millionaires, we say Kemsa scandal, they stole 3 billion. You ask, who stole and what was stolen? Because the idea of procurement is government getting goods from the private sector. So were the goods, did the government ask for goods? Were the goods delivered? So what is the embezzlement per se? And so when we go to corruption cases, then you start hearing people saying about how the rich always get away with it. But it's because from the social media craze, whatever you guys are talking about here and what is actually on paper and what we can actually prove is two different things. So because if you were to look at it and say, okay, number one, the first problem is getting 2 tenders is not embezzling money, it's abuse of office. So there's no money that was actually lost. The problem is you were not supposed to get 2 tenders as a person, but you got them anyway. Number 2, in your tenders, you were supposed to provide goods A, B, and C. Did you provide them? So sometimes our problem is that, yes, you did provide them, but the bill was escalated. So you are supposed to get 30 billion, it was written 50 billion or something like that. But if you don't get to those nitty-gritties, if you don't open our minds to actually having the idea of understanding this trickling down system.
So the intricacies instead of just a general opinion.
Yeah, and most of the time that's how the people get away with it.
Because we don't focus
because you don't focus
Okay.
on what exactly transpired and what is actually the problem. We focus on calling it a whole scandal and liking that KEMSA had 3.1 billion. They wouldn't spend 3.1 billion on one tender alone. But
Okay, then maybe I would pose this to you. So, an uproar on social media, how far can it go? Can it be, what, can it be admissible in court, maybe if there's a case?
well, that's the problem. The reason I was saying I'm disappointed is because I would love to get to that day that we do George Floyd just on social media and it becomes a whole world craze, and we can actually be able to prove our point of reasoning is this because of this, and this was the wrong thing, this was the right thing, this is what to do. Problem with what we have as in Kenya as of right now is we are looking for the next high. So we like that trigger. Oh, there's some money missing in KEMSA. We jump on it, cause an uproar, and then once we go to you even try to get people to watch the parliamentary proceedings to find out what happened. They are not interested. The thing that will be interested is the makeup that the woman presenting will have on, the attitude she will have when
So the
replying
side shows.
Yeah, so it's,
Okay.
we end up not even understanding what was lost and how to regain what was lost. So
Okay.
and then we start saying now people get away with it, our judicial system is failing. It's not.
Okay, so as even we are concluding,
Okay.
so I would just want your last thoughts on how social media now can be used to effect change.
First thing first, I would love to carbon copy what he has just talked about. We should try as much as possible to understand our civic duty as the youths, even we are going on creating the rampage and all that. That's first thing first. Second thing, I will just love to inform most of the majority that when you are able to tweet about it, when you are able to talk about it, when you are able to post about it, it makes a difference, because these metrics, and as much as sometimes we think like it's an invalid metric or it's just a vanity metric, it's not. There's potential impact. We realize that if all the youths are to tweet about something and we are to run under one tag, we could have a potential impact. Me alone, I could have a potential impact of more than 4 million. So I believe if about 100 or 200, 500, 1,000 celebrity and influencers, if we join on board and we talk about affairs that matter, we talk about the evils probably that we see, or the unfairness that we see and all that, I believe to some point that it makes a difference.
Step in the right direction.
It's a step on the right direction, because you could have a potential impact of something to do with even a billion, and we could end up changing this whole system as a whole.
Okay.
So
Yes.
our voice counts.
Yes, Robbie, as we conclude.
Okay, I want to take a different angle.
Very shortly.
Very shortly. And I want to say this: as you tweet, remember that information is power. But in Kenya, you don't have a guarantee to your privacy in terms of data. There's only talk about what is property and what is intellectual property, but we do not have laws that govern our privacy in terms of the data and the online space. But luckily, we have a solution to that, and it's a constitutional amendment bill coming up next month. Thank you.
Oh. Okay, you just had to throw that in. Okay, and that is the voice of Robbie Karani, who is a political analyst and advocate, and of course, Frank Zaga, who is a digital guru. Our conversation for today has been COVID-19 restriction and the subsequent unrest on social media and a possible revolution. And that is it from us here. Our sign language interpreter has been Josephine Ouko. I am Nancy Nalima. Thank you for watching.